In 1804, 500,000 enslaved people beat Napoleon's army and built the first free black republic, but history class skipped it. And the reason why is darker than the revolution itself. You know the American Revolution. You know the French Revolution. You can probably name the dates without thinking. But ask most people what happened in Haiti in 1791 and you'll get silence. That silence isn't an accident. It's the point. Saint-Domingue was the richest colony on earth. A single French territory, smaller than Maryland, producing more sugar and coffee than anywhere else on the planet. That wealth came from roughly 500,000 enslaved Africans, worked to death on plantations so brutal that the average survival time after arrival was measured in years, not decades. The colonizers called it the Pearl of the Antilles. The people forced to build it called it something else entirely. In August of 1791, they rose up. Not a riot. Not a rebellion that fizzled by morning. A coordinated, sustained uprising that would grow into the only successful slave revolt in recorded history. One that didn't just free people, but overthrew the entire colonial government and named its own nation. For 13 years they fought. They fought French royalists, then French revolutionaries, then the Spanish, then the British, then Napoleon Bonaparte himself, who sent over 60,000 of his best soldiers to crush them and reinstall slavery by force. Under leaders like Toussaint Louverture, a formerly enslaved man who outnegotiated and outmaneuvered European generals, the revolutionaries burned plantations, dismantled armies, and survived yellow fever epidemics that did what muskets couldn't. In 1804, Jean-Jacques Dessalines declared independence. He renamed the colony Haiti, an indigenous Taino word for land of mountains. For the first time in the modern world, a nation had been born from a slave revolt that actually won. And that's not even the strangest part. Here's what doesn't add up. If this was such a monumental victory, the only one of its kind, ever, why isn't it taught with the same weight as 1776 or 1789? Why do American and European textbooks devote paragraphs to it, if that? Every other revolution that reshaped the modern world gets movies, monuments, mandatory units in school. Haiti gets a footnote. That's not because the story is obscure. It's because the story is dangerous, and it was made dangerous on purpose, starting the moment the ink dried on Haiti's independence. Here's the buried why. The world's slaveholding powers, France, the United States, Britain, Spain, could not afford for Haiti to succeed. Not politically, not economically, not psychologically. If enslaved people in Haiti could rise up, win, and govern themselves, then every plantation owner from Georgia to Cuba to Brazil had a nightmare sitting a few hundred miles offshore. So they didn't just ignore Haiti, they strangled it. The United States refused to recognize Haiti as a nation for 60 years, because acknowledging a black government meant a president would have to receive a black ambassador. Unthinkable, they said, to a slave-holding Congress. France did something worse. In 1825, French warships parked off the Haitian coast and demanded payment, an independence debt of 150 million francs, compensation not for lives lost, but for the property France claimed to have lost. The property was the people themselves. Haiti was forced to pay its own former masters for the crime of freeing themselves, under threat of invasion. That debt, later reduced but stretched across generations, wasn't paid off until 1947. A nation born from the only victorious slave revolt in history spent a century and a half in engineered poverty, punished for winning. That's not a footnote. That's a deliberate erasure, because the true story indicts the very nations writing the textbooks. Once you see that, other silences start looking less like oversight. How many failed states were failed on purpose, bled dry by the powers that later pointed at the poverty as proof they couldn't govern themselves? How many gaps in your education aren't gaps at all, but load-bearing walls, holding up a version of history where the powerful never have to answer for what they did to the people who beat them? Haiti isn't an exception to how history gets written. It might be the clearest example of the rule. So here's the question nobody answers in class. If the only nation ever built by a successful slave revolt was punished for 122 years for the crime of existing, what else got left out of the story, and who decided you didn't need to know it?